The day my past came back to haunt me. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. When I heard his voice again, my hands forgot how to move. It was 2:14 a.m. On a Tuesday, the slow part of my shift, when the call center hummed like an aquarium. Keyboards clicking, fluorescent lights buzzing, my headset warm against one ear. The screen flashed a callback, number I didn't recognize. I let it ring to voicemail. Policy said I shouldn't, but my stomach had already decided I couldn't breathe. The voicemail transcription popped up a second later, auto-generated in that bland font the city paid for. Riley, it's Jonah. You always did like hiding behind systems. My fingers hovered over the playback button. I pressed it anyway, like touching a bruise to prove it hurt. Hey, Jonah said, and he sounded older, rougher, but it was him. Don't hang up this time. I found your statement. The one you signed on March 3rd, 2011. I've got the scan, your handwriting, your little I swear line. I'm sending it to Sam in 3 days. My throat closed around his name. Sam was asleep in our apartment across town, dreaming about wedding menus and paint colors, believing I'd never lied to him. My background check had cleared when I got hired as a 911 dispatcher. It would not clear again if someone dragged juvenile court into daylight. Jonah kept talking. You're going to meet me. You're going to fix it. Or I'll make sure everyone hears what you did to me. The call center felt suddenly too loud. Across the row, a supervisor laughed at a meme. Someone poured burnt coffee. I stared at my screen where a fresh 911 call was already queuing, waiting for my calm voice. I'd built my adult life on being the person who didn't panic. But the past didn't care about my training, my ring on my finger, or the fact that I'd spent 14 years pretending that night never happened. My phone vibrated again, a text from an unknown number, a photo of a court file cover sheet, case no. JV 11-08427, stamped sealed. Under it, one line. You have 72 hours. Then the screen flashed his name again, this time on a live 911 call. I made it through the next call by muscle memory, the way you could drive home without remembering the turns. I asked the caller for cross streets. I typed. I dispatched units. My voice stayed steady, professional, almost pleasant. Inside, I was 17 again. At 7:03 a.m., I clocked out and walked to my car in the employee lot, where the dawn made everything look honest. The city was waking up, school buses, joggers, a guy unlocking a donut shop. I sat behind the wheel and didn't start the engine for a full minute because my hands kept opening and closing like they were trying to let something go. My adult life was built on routines. Night shift, meal prep on Sundays, running the same 3-mile loop after work, keeping my world small enough that nothing unexpected could squeeze in. Sam loved that about me. You're calm, he used to say, like it was a compliment and not a survival skill. When I got home, he was in the kitchen in sweatpants, making scrambled eggs and humming. He looked up, smiled, and then his smile paused. Hey, he said, you look white. I'm fine. I lied, stepping into his arms. He kissed my temple. Bad calls. Just tired. He pulled back to look at me. Sam's eyes were the kind that didn't let you hide behind jokes. Riley, talk to me. There were things I could talk about. The toddler who'd swallowed a coin. The domestic dispute that ended with everyone crying in the driveway. The way dispatchers learned to swallow fear. But there was one thing I'd never told him. My first police interview had happened when I was still wearing braces, and I'd signed a statement that changed someone's life. I walked to the bathroom and locked the door. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A screenshot this time, grainy and old. A teenage girl in a puffy jacket outside the county courthouse, head down, hair covering her face. Me. Under the picture was a timestamp, March 3rd, 2011, 9:12. And beneath that, 3 words that made my knees go weak. I remember everything. Sam knocked softly. Riley, you okay? Then the doorknob turned, and I realized I hadn't latched it. I yanked the door open so fast it smacked the wall. Sam stood there in the hallway, one hand half raised. Sorry, he said. I thought you. I'm fine, I cut in. Just sick. He frowned. Do you want me to call out to work? No. The word came out too sharp. I softened it with a fake smile. Go. I'll sleep. When the apartment finally went quiet, I sat on the bathroom floor with my back against the tub and played Jonah's voicemail again, this time with the volume low enough that it felt illegal. Then another text arrived. Meet me today. 5:30 p.m. Glass House Diner. Come alone. I typed back. Who is this? Wrong number. His reply came instantly. Don't do that, Riley. A second message followed, and my stomach dropped. Attachment, Riley_witness_statement_Mar3_2011. PDF. I opened it. The scan was crisp, like it had come straight from a county database. My name was typed at the top. The city seal glowed in pale gray. In the lower right corner sat my looping signature, the one I used now on mortgage paperwork and holiday cards. Next to it, the line I'd forgotten I'd written. I saw Jonah Keller holding a red gas can. That detail wasn't in the news. It wasn't in the rumors. It was in the room that night, in the stink of fuel and panic, in the part of my memory I'd buried. My chest tightened. I texted back, "You can't have that." It was sealed. Jonah sent a photo of a manila envelope on a table. In black marker, Sam Wheeler, personal and confidential. Another envelope beside it read, City HR, background review. Stop, I whispered, like he could hear me through glass. His final message made my mouth go dry. 25,000 by Friday, or you tell the truth yourself. I could have called the police. I could have told Sam. I could have blocked the number. Instead, I opened my laptop and searched Glass House Diner, because 14 years ago I'd learned what happened when you pretended things weren't real. And at the bottom of Jonah's PDF was a footer I'd never seen before. The first thing I remembered was the smell, gasoline, sharp and sweet, like cleaner that wanted to be fire. I was 17, in a borrowed hoodie that still smelled like my mom's detergent. Jonah was beside me, laughing too loudly because that's what he did when he was scared. We weren't hardened criminals. We were bored kids with a stupid plan. Cut behind Franklin High, slip through the broken window into the old storage annex, grab spare stage lights Jonah swore were just sitting there, and sell them online. My phone screen glowed 11:46 p.m. Jonah whispered, "Hurry," while our shoes crunched on glass. The annex door stuck, then gave with a wet pop. Inside was dust, old paint, and a red plastic gas can sitting near the back wall like someone had staged it. I brushed it with my fingertips and yanked my hand away. It felt greasy. Jonah's voice went thin. That wasn't me. Then the memory fractured. A flashlight beam. An adult voice, angry, close. "Who's in there?" We ran. My lungs burned. Jonah yanked my wrist so hard it hurt. Behind us, something clinked like a bottle hitting concrete, and a second later, a whoosh stole the air from my throat. Flames climbed the doorway faster than any fire should. We hid under a neighbor's porch, panting, while sirens grew closer. Jonah's hands shook. "I didn't do that," he kept saying. I swear I didn't. 2 days later, I sat in interview room B, knees bouncing, while a woman with a tight bun slid a paper toward me. "Mrs. Klein, my English teacher, the one adults trusted. Riley," she said gently, "you want college, right? You want your life? Just tell them what you saw. Jonah will be fine." I didn't understand what fine meant in juvenile court. I understood scholarships. I understood my mother's exhausted face. I understood fear. So I signed. I told the detective I saw Jonah holding the red gas can. I didn't mention the greasy fingerprints or the adult voice, because my own mind wouldn't hold it steady. Staring at the diner's address on my laptop, I realized it sat across from the courthouse. And that was when I remembered Mrs. Klein outside the annex that night. I spent the whole day pretending to be normal. Sam went to work. I washed sheets we didn't need washed. I answered my mom's cheerful texts with heart emojis. I even tasted the eggs I'd barely swallowed that morning, as if flavor could prove I was still in my own life. At 3:18 p.m., Jonah sent another receipt. A screenshot of an email draft addressed to Dispatch HR at City.gov, with the subject line, "Background discrepancy, Riley M. Harper." Below it, he'd pasted the first paragraph of my 2019 employment application, the part where I checked the box that said "No under. Have you ever been the subject of a juvenile court proceeding?" He wrote, "You like checking boxes. Let's see how your boss does." My pulse drummed in my ears. I called the unknown number, forgetting to block my caller ID until it was too late. It rang once. He picked up. "Hey, Riley." His calmness was worse than yelling. "What do you want?" I tried to keep my voice level, like I was talking a suicidal caller off a bridge. "Why are you doing this?" A pause. I heard traffic on his end, a blinker ticking. "Because you never paid." Jonah said. Not with money. Not with truth. I was a kid, I snapped. We were both kids. We were, he agreed, and there was something sharp under it. But only one of us got to grow up clean. He told me the terms like he'd rehearsed them. Meet him at 5:30, bring $5,000 as good faith, and sign a notarized statement he'd already drafted. If I did, he'd give me the rest of his evidence and let me choose my timing for the bigger confession. And if I don't, I asked, though I already knew. I mail the packets, he said simply. To Sam. To HR. To the State Dispatcher Certification Board. Maybe to the local paper. You like helping strangers in crisis, right? Let's see how your city feels about hiring a liar. My stomach rolled. You can't extort me. He laughed once, humorless. You can call it whatever helps you sleep. Then his voice lowered. Also, I know why you picked me. My skin went cold. What are you talking about? You didn't lie to save yourself, Jonas said. You lied for her. The line went dead. At 5:29 p.m., Jonah texted a selfie taken inside the diner booth. I didn't walk into the glass house at 5:30. I sat in my car 2 blocks away with my hands on the steering wheel, watching people drift in and out like they didn't have ghosts waiting at booth 6. My phone lit up twice. No new messages, just the screen reflecting my face back at me. If Jonah wanted a confession, I needed to know exactly what I was confessing to. At 6:11, I drove straight to the county courthouse records office, the same building I'd walked into as a kid with Mrs. Klein's hand on my shoulder. The lobby smelled like disinfectant and paper. I took a number and waited. When my turn came, I slid my ID under the glass. I need information on a sealed juvenile case, I said. Case number JV 11-08427. The clerk, a woman with reading glasses on a chain, typed, clicked, frowned. That file is sealed, she said. I can't release contents. I'm not asking for contents, I said, choosing my words carefully. Just the docket. Dates. Anything public. She stared at me, then printed one page. She stamped it informational only and slid it through the slot like contraband. Receipt number 1. Docket summary, JV 11-08427. Filed, February 28, 2011. Disposition hearing, April 14, 2011. Restitution ordered, $3,200. Victim, Franklin Unified School District. Restitution. I hadn't remembered restitution. On the bottom was an address line for the incident location. I read it twice, because my brain kept trying to swap it for something safer. It wasn't just Franklin High Storage Annex. It was a full street address, 2148 West Holland Avenue. That was 2 houses down from Mrs. Klein's old place. Back home, I dug through the closet and pulled down the box labeled college. Under diplomas and old photos was my first prepaid phone, wrapped in a scarf. The battery was dead, but the SIM card still held a few saved numbers. One contact was labeled only, Klein, home. When I tapped it, the call log showed the last outgoing call on March 2, 2011, and the timestamp lined up with the night before I signed. The next night at work, I did something I'd sworn I'd never do with city systems. I pulled the archived CAD log for the Franklin High Annex fire. Access required a reason code. My cursor hovered, then I picked Incident Follow-up. The screen filled with timestamps and call IDs, cold and absolute. Receipt number 2. CAD Event ID 11-047892. First call, February 27, 2011, 23:49 and 12 seconds. Caller name, Klein, M. Narrative, 2 teens behind school annex. One has a gas can. The call came in 3 minutes before the first unit was dispatched for flames. If Mrs. Klein called it in before the fire, then she'd been watching, waiting. And if anyone audited my access log, I'd be explaining to HR why I was digging up a sealed juvenile incident from 14 years ago. Between calls, I dialed the number saved on my old SIM card. It rang twice. A woman answered, voice older but still controlled. Hello. Mrs. Klein, I said. It's Riley Harper. From Franklin. A pause, then a careful warmth. Riley. Oh my goodness. I need to ask you about February 27, 2011, I said, because the full date kept my hands from shaking. That's the fire, she said. I was there, I said. And you were there too. Her tone turned soothing, familiar. I tried to help you kids, she said. I tried to stop Jonah. He was spiraling. That's not what I remember. What do you remember? She asked, and the softness felt like a net. I remember an adult voice in the annex. I said. A man. There was no man, Mrs. Klein said quickly. Trauma scrambles details. You called 911 at 11:49, I said, before anyone saw flames. Why? Silence, so long I thought she'd hung up. Then she said, very softly, because I needed someone else to arrive first. I stared at the CAD log until the letters blurred, trying to understand what kind of adult helps by arranging a scene. My supervisor strolled past my station, and I forced my face into neutral. And my headset beeped with an incoming call from Jonah's number. I didn't answer Jonah's call. I let it roll to voicemail, hands flat on my desk like they belonged to someone else. On my break, I stepped outside and called the non-emergency line from my personal phone. I think I'm being extorted, I said. It's tied to an old juvenile case. After a couple transfers, a woman came on, steady, unhurried. Detective Shop. I almost hung up. Talking to police had ended one way for me before. My name is Riley Harper, I said. I work dispatch. Jonah Keller is threatening to expose a sealed case unless I pay him. Bring what you have, she said. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. At 9:02 a.m. I sat across from Detective Priya Shah in a small room that smelled like dry erase markers. She didn't moralize. She asked for facts. I slid the docket summary and my notes across the table. She read, typed, and then frowned at her screen. This is odd, she said. What? My throat felt tight. The evidence inventory, she said. There was another accelerant container collected. Not the red gas can. She printed a page and handed it to me. Receipt number 3, property/evidence sheet. Incident report 11-034119. Item 4, glass bottle with fuel residue. Tag E, 1173. Latent print result. Match. Unknown adult male. Disposition. Retained. Pending review. Unknown adult male? I whispered. Detective Shah nodded once. That doesn't belong in a kid's story, she said. And it wasn't part of the juvenile disposition, at least not in the portions I can access. She scrolled again, then tapped another line buried in an addendum. Witness, R. Harper, appeared coached by adult third party. Recommend follow-up. My mouth went dry. They knew, I said. They knew I was coached. And someone still accepted your statement as clean, she said. I thought of Mrs. Klein's voice, soft as a blanket, heavy as a weight. Detective Shah leaned back. If your memory doesn't match the official story, she said, we need to find who forced them to match. Then her phone buzzed, and her expression changed as she read the screen. Detective Shah couldn't hand me the sealed juvenile file, but she could tell me where money left footprints. Beneficiaries always show up somewhere, she said. Insurance, settlements, payroll. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop while Sam moved around the apartment, humming, living in the future. I waited until he went to shower before I opened the county's public civil docket search. I typed, Klein, Franklin, 2011. 3 results popped up. One was a traffic ticket. One was a small claims dispute. The third made my stomach tighten. Klein, Martha V., Franklin Unified School District. Case No. CV, 11-22914. Filed, May 10, 2011. Disposition, settled, June 20, 2011. I clicked through docket entries, motions, notices, in order to seal settlement details. But one line item was public, agenda item, approval of settlement. I found the district board minutes PDF in their archive. It took 10 minutes of scrolling, like the past was hiding between budget reports and cafeteria renovations. Receipt number 4, Franklin USD board minutes, June 20, 2011. Item 7C. Approved settlement agreement. Martha Klein. Incident February 27, 2011. Amount approved, $187,450. Vote, 5-0. I stared at the number until it stopped looking like math and started looking like motive. Mrs. Klein hadn't just helped. She'd been paid. A lot. And the settlement date was 2 months after Jonah's disposition hearing. When I called Detective Shah, my voice shook. If she got that much, I said, what does it mean? It means a narrative where 2 teens cause the fire protects adults, she said. Protects budgets. Protects reputations. I opened the board minutes again and zoomed in on the fine print under item 7C. There was a line labeled conditions. The settlement stood only if the district incurred no liability beyond the juvenile adjudication. My skin went cold because I suddenly understood what my statement had purchased. Then I noticed one more name attached to the settlement packet, Jonah Keller. Sam noticed the cracks before I did. On Thursday evening, he came home holding our mail and an envelope that wasn't ours. Thick. No return address. My name printed in block letters. Did you order something? He asked. My heart stopped. No. He flipped it over. The seal had been broken and retaped, like someone wanted it to look accidental. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A screenshot of my own voicemail transcription from Tuesday night. At the bottom, one line. Ask her about 2011. Sam's eyes lifted to mine. Riley, he said slowly, what is this? My mouth opened. Nothing came out. It's a prank, I said, and I hated myself the second the lie landed. Sam didn't yell. That was worse. A prank from who? I could have told him then. I could have said Jonah's name and watched our future wobble and maybe survive honesty. Instead, I said, someone I used to know. Sam stared at me like he was trying to decide if he recognized me. You're scared, he said. Why are you scared? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A single text. Glass house. Now, I left Sam in the kitchen with the envelope in his hand, and I drove to the diner like I was driving to my own sentencing. Jonah was already in a booth, hoodie up, coffee untouched. He looked thinner than the voice in my voicemail. You sent that to my house, I hissed, sliding in across from him. I sent it to get your attention, he said. Because you're still running. What do you want from me? My voice cracked. Money? A confession? Jonah leaned forward. Truth, he said. I've got a draft ready. You recant. You testify you were coached. We reopen my case. You help me go after the district. And if I do, I whispered, I lose everything. He didn't flinch. Yeah, he said. That's what happens when you build on a lie. My phone lit up with Sam calling. Jonah watched my screen. Tell him, he said quietly. Right now. I couldn't. Jonah reached into his backpack and set a black flash drive on the table. Here's what you bought with your signature, he said. Then he slid it closer and told me to play it. I didn't play the flash drive in the diner. I kept my face neutral, pocketed it, and told Jonah, I'll think. Then I left before my fear turned into a promise. In the car, my hands shook so hard I had to pull over. I stared at Sam's missed call until my eyes burned. Then I drove straight to the precinct. Detective Shah didn't look surprised when I showed up with dark circles and a flash drive in my palm. She brought me into her office and plugged it into a department laptop like it was evidence, not blackmail. Receipt number 5 was the first file we opened. Audio_20110302_0917. M4A. A woman's voice filled the room. Tight, controlled, familiar. Listen to me, Riley, Mrs. Klein said. If you tell them you saw Jonah with the can, they stop looking at you. My stomach lurched. I heard my own teenage breathing, quick and thin. But I didn't see him with it, my younger voice whispered. You saw enough, Mrs. Klein replied. And you want out of this, don't you? You want college. You want a future. Detective Shah paused the audio and looked at me, not with judgment, but with something that felt worse, clarity. This is coaching, she said. And it's explicit. I told myself she was protecting me, I said. I didn't want to be the bad kid. She was protecting herself, Shah said. And the district. The drive also held a draft affidavit with my name already typed in, plus a scanned settlement release page stamped June 20th, 2011. Jonah hadn't invented any of it. What's the plan? I asked, because panic needed a shape. Detective Shah leaned forward. We get Klein talking, she said. On record. You call her and say you found the minutes and the coaching note. Tell her Jonah is demanding money and you're scared you'll go public. She'll try to manage you. My phone buzzed again. Sam. I finally answered. Where are you? He asked, voice strained. Riley, I'm done being shut out. I swallowed. I'm at the police station, I said, and I need you to hear something. Then I put the audio on speaker and watched Sam's silence grow heavier. Detective Shah set the trap for Saturday afternoon because weekends made people careless. We chose the glass house again, public, loud, full of witnesses. Shah sat 2 booths away. Jonah arrived first, restless. Sam sat beside me, rigid, like his body was holding his anger in place. When Mrs. Klein walked in, she smiled like it was a parent-teacher conference. "Riley," she said, sliding into the booth across from us. "And Jonah, I wondered when you'd crawl back." Jonah's jaw jumped. "You called me a criminal at 17, he said. "Now you're running for school board." "People grow," she said sweetly. "Some of us do." I forced air into my lungs. "I found the board minutes," I said. "The settlement. 187,000. Mrs. Klein's eyes flicked, just once, to Jonah, calculation. "You shouldn't be digging," she said softly. "It will ruin you." "It already did," Jonah snapped. "I did time. I paid restitution. You got a check." Mrs. Klein leaned forward, voice turning that soothing teacher tone. "Jonah, you broke in. Actions have consequences." "And the glass bottle?" I asked. "Tag E, 1173. Adult male prints." Her hand paused on her water glass. "I don't know what you're talking about." Sam's voice cut in, low and shaking. "Why did you coach Riley?" he asked. "Why is your voice on that recording?" Mrs. Klein looked at him like he was homework. "Because she was a child," she said. "And she needed direction." "No," I said. "I needed the truth. You needed a witness." For the first time, her smile cracked. "You don't understand what was at stake," she hissed. "Money," Jonah said, bitter. "The fire erased records," I said, hearing myself go cold. "Then you sued the district for trauma." Mrs. Klein's face flushed. "Careful," she said. "Defamation." Detective Shaw stood and walked to our booth. She placed her badge on the table, calm and bright. "Mrs. Klein," she said, "this conversation is being recorded." Mrs. Klein's gaze snapped to me, furious and sharp. "You weren't supposed to be there that night, Riley," she said. Detective Shaw didn't slap handcuffs on Mrs. Klein in the diner. Real life didn't do clean endings. What Shaw did was worse. She took names, asked the manager for security footage, and calmly informed Mrs. Klein she would be contacted for a formal interview. Mrs. Klein left with her chin high, but her hands trembled when she grabbed her purse. Jonah walked out into the parking lot and stood there like someone waiting for an explosion he'd lit years ago. "So now what?" he asked me. I didn't have an answer. I just had 14 years of consequences arriving on schedule. 2 days later, on February 8, 2026, Detective Shaw emailed me a subpoena notice. State v. Klein, witness appearance requested. Seeing my name under witness made my stomach flip. I'd spent my adult life being the voice behind emergencies, not the reason for them. Then my own workplace cracked. On Tuesday, my supervisor sent a meeting invite with no subject line. HR plus Internal Affairs, 10 a.m. I knew exactly what it was about. I'd accessed archived CAD logs without authorization. I'd done it because I was desperate, but policy didn't care about desperate. Sam didn't speak much that week. He moved through the apartment like a guest. One night he finally said, "I don't know who I'm marrying. I'm still me." I insisted and hated how thin it sounded. "You lied to my face," he said. Over and over. Jonah texted once. "Got interview notice." "She's panicking." Good. I didn't feel good. I felt sick. The more receipts surfaced, the more I saw myself as a link in a chain. A scared kid, a polished adult, the same person making choices for survival. Detective Shaw called me that Friday. "Klein's attorney is pushing back," she said. "And Jonah's old adjudication is complicated. Your recantation could help him, if you're willing to say it publicly." Publicly. The word tasted like rust. I looked at Sam asleep on the couch, turned away from me, and realized truth wasn't a single confession. It was a series of losses you agreed to stop lying. At 9:58 a.m. Monday, I walked into HR and saw my file. HR didn't fire me that day. They did something that felt like both mercy and punishment. They put me on administrative leave pending review and handed me a packet titled Employee Integrity Inquiry. Receipt number 6 was stamped across the top. Issued February 10, 2026, Case IA 26-014. Seeing integrity next to my name made me nauseous. I walked out into the parking lot and called Sam. When he answered, his voice was flat. "I'm not asking you to forgive me today," I said. "I'm asking you to stop guessing. Can we talk tonight? Really talk?" There was a long pause. "We're postponing the wedding," he said finally. "I can't stand at an altar and pretend I know you." It hurt, but it was clean. It was the first boundary in a story that had been all blur. That night, I told him everything I could without turning it into excuses. The annex, the gas can, Mrs. Klein's voice in my ear, my signature on the statement, the years of pretending it didn't count because I'd been young. Sam listened with his hands clenched, and when I finished he said, "I love you. But love doesn't erase consequences." Detective Shah connected me with the city's legal counsel so I wouldn't walk into another interview room alone. Jonah emailed me, not burner texts, for the first time. Receipt number 7. Email subject. Affidavit Draft V3. Sent February 13th, 2026, 2106. From Jonah. Keller at. To Riley. Harper at. Line 1. No cash. Just the truth. That became my boundary too. I told Jonah I would not pay him, not $1, not ever. If he wanted repair, it went through the courts. If he wanted revenge, he could do it without my money. He didn't apologize. But he stopped threatening Sam. I started therapy because my body didn't understand the difference between past and incoming call. I learned that shame was a kind of addiction. It promised relief if you kept hiding, then charged interest forever. On February 18th, 2026, I sat in a notary's office with a pen that felt heavier than it should. I signed an affidavit recanting my 2011 statement and describing Mrs. Klein's coaching, worded carefully, painfully, truth without drama. Sam drove me home in silence. At our door he said, "This is the beginning, not the fix." That night, I reread the last paragraph and saw the worst truth. By the time the dust settled, nothing looked the way it did in my head. Mrs. Klein didn't get to manage her way out of it. Detective Shah pulled the evidence inventory, the settlement paperwork, and Jonah's audio into a timeline that made the story impossible to keep neat. The district's attorney tried to bury it under procedural issues, but the recording of Klein coaching me was the kind of thing juries understood without jargon. Jonah's juvenile adjudication was reopened. It wasn't instant redemption. It was paperwork, hearings, and him sitting in a hallway with his knee bouncing like it had when we were kids. Watching him fight for a clean record made me realize how casually I'd treated his life when I signed mine onto a lie. My consequences stayed mine. Internal Affairs wrote me up for unauthorized system access and for failing to disclose material history during hiring. I kept my certification, but I lost trust for a long time. I earned it back the slow way, showing up, telling the truth, letting people be disappointed without trying to control it. Sam and I didn't magically recover. We postponed the wedding indefinitely. Some nights he slept on the couch. Some nights we talked until sunrise like we were learning each other from scratch. Therapy didn't erase what I did at 17. It taught me why I'd kept hiding at 31. Here's what I wish I'd understood earlier. Secrecy doesn't freeze the past. It feeds it. It gives it interest and teeth and a perfect moment to bite you. If you're reading this while sitting on a one-time mistake, do yourself one mercy. Tell the truth to someone safe before the truth finds an audience. Save receipts. Write dates. Don't let an extortionist set your deadlines. And if an adult asks a kid to just say what you saw, ask who benefits from the story staying simple. A week after I signed my affidavit, I went back to work on modified duty. The call center lights still buzzed. The keyboard still clicked. I put on my headset and took my first call with a voice that didn't shake.